Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? So you're in high school, right? Around this time, you're probably going through this. How was this affecting your mental health? Like, were you aware of the addiction?
I always thought that I had a problem from the very, very beginning. So even
Why did you think that?
because nobody was talking about it.
Mm.
I mean, that's I think that secrecy breeds shame. And so nobody was talking about it, then it had to be something bad. And the only thing that I remember, my mom hates when I say this in interviews, but um, one time I remember driving by a local high school and there being a pregnant girl walking to school, and my mom pointing, and this is like the only thing she ever said about sex growing up. She pointed at the pregnant girl and said, "Don't ever let that happen to you," and then pointed to my crotch and was like, "Don't let anybody ever touch you down there." So I figured and I was quite young when that happened. And I remember thinking like, oh, okay, this area of my body is like this terrifying thing that's going to just drive everyone away and, and break me and disappoint my parents. So of course, any sensations that arose out of that area were going to be off limits. But this happened earlier than high school. So this was like 12 when I discovered the porn. And even those like primary urges of wanting to masturbate and have sex, as normal as they were at that time, like in retrospect, I think like, okay, yeah, like raising hormones, like new experiences. Of course, I wanted to do it all the time. It doesn't mean it was an addiction, but I remember at the time thinking like, I'm out of control. Like this is something so bad. I have to stop. But then feeling like I couldn't stop. And I do think it switched over to something problematic when I said I had the scoliosis and I started to lean on it as an escape instead of facing those issues or talking to somebody about it. I just went for that, and that became a habit that was hard to break.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think especially in this context and in the age in which we were growing up, because we're not that far removed in age here, I think about how incredibly impossible it felt to have that kind of conversation where the guilt and shame that would like be created in my head would be so overwhelming. I'd be like, well, you know what? I'll just go watch porn again. It'll be fine. And and then that turns into this chaos where now fast forward, jump up a couple of years out of high school, like trying to exist in the world. And it's like, how do you exist when you're facing that demon every single day? And so what I'm
Mhm.
curious about is what's the evolution of this? Like, what does life start looking like as you get older, as start, dating, relationships, intimacy, trying to figure
Mhm.
out who you are, being on your own in the world, experiencing Erica?
Yeah. I think the biggest negative effect it had on me, besides all of like the dangerous situations I put myself in physically and mentally, was just isolating a lot. I mean, I felt unworthy of friendship. I always felt like if this was going to be something people found out about me, and I would be, sent off to an island somewhere. Like everybody would turn away from me, and I would be completely isolated anyway. But I isolated myself first so that other people wouldn't reject me. So I guess that's kind of like a defense people do, right? I don't want to be rejected, so I'm just gonna like not even try. So I did that a lot with the masturbating and with the porn. I just kind of like that was my thing. I'd rather lock myself up in a bedroom and stay by myself and do these things than like try out and make friends or like, like just be social. Because I was so afraid and so filled with self-hatred. And I didn't start dating until end of high school. I had very limited access to boys and men because I went to Catholic school, all girls school when I was in high school. And so, but because I had been watching porn for a long time, I had all of these built up ideas about what those experiences were going to be like. And I had lots of fantasies and was like always waiting for the day that some guy was going to show me attention and then I was going to ride off into the sunset together with him. And so that didn't happen until I was like a senior in high school. I met somebody who was much older than me and I could act out those things. And I felt like once I opened that door, it was just like a dam break free. Like I could just like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Now I'm just gonna go after it nonstop. And so going after men or like trying to get their attention and having sex and all having relationships just became like another addiction. It just became like I didn't stop the porn, I would do both. So it became pretty impossible not to have an orgasm, waiting for me in the wings. It was like either I was going to do it at home or I was going to find some guy to do that with. And I just found myself in this sort of like cycle of like just nonstop searching and trying to fill this hole that was empty, but never feeling like I was successfully filling it. And constantly searching and constantly wanting and feeling insatiable and incomplete. And lonely at the same time. It didn't matter how many partners I had, I still felt incredibly lonely in their presence. I think because I was just not really being myself. I was allowing myself to be an object and portray the most sexy version of myself, that I thought they wanted, and kind of reenacting scenes I saw on TV or on my laptop. Um, and so it went a lot of years of feeling quite isolated and alone.